A fingertip rests on one of 45 signs no one can read, and never, anywhere again. 45 signs share this baked circle, and no alphabet on Earth contains them. For 116 years, every serious decipherment has collapsed. 241 stamped marks spiral toward a mute center. Each mark was punched by a stamp cut for it alone. A full writing system used once on one object, then never again. Nobody knows what language it wrote or why it vanished. This is the Phaistos script, and it has stumped everyone who ever touched it. In 1908, Luigi Pernier dug it from a burned Cretan palace. He lifted a small baked circle from the dark, fire-scarred soil. It lay in a basement room beside a broken, unreadable tablet. Around 1700 BC, a fire swept Phaistos and sealed this room. Here's the reason it survived. That fire baked the clay hard. Minoans almost never fired their tablets, so nearly all of them crumbled. But this one was baked to stone, and that changes everything. Now look closer, because the signs themselves are the unexplained riddle. Each of the 45 signs was not carved, but punched with a stamp. The same seal pressed the same figure again and again and again. That is a standardized script, a toolkit of 45 reusable signs. Whoever made it owned stamps for a language written nowhere else. 45 hand-cut punches for 45 impossible signs. No other object on Earth carries even one of them. A real script implies scribes, archives, letters, an entire written world. Yet every other trace of that world is lost to time. One document survives from an entire written language, just one. Now follow the marks as they curl inward like a tightening shell. Thin grooves split the spiral into 61 separate little groups. Scholars call those groups words, but nobody can read one of them. One sign shows a striding man wearing a tall, plumed crown. Another shows a child, a woman, a round shield, a curved ship. A bee, a dove, a fish, and an animal hide all appear. Here's the catch. Every sign is crisp, deliberate, and completely mute. The plumed head repeats 19 times more than any other sign. Some read it as a warrior, some a king, some a god. The striding man appears 13 times, always tall and crowned. In 1908, Pernier photographed all 241 marks by dim lamplight. 45 distinct shapes, and the plumed head leads them all. But here's where it breaks everyone. The disc refuses to confess. For over 100 years, hundreds of scholars have claimed to crack it, and every single solution has been quietly, firmly rejected. One read a prayer, one a call to arms, one a star map. One even claimed it lists forgotten Cretan towns in exact order. They cannot all be right, and not one can ever be proven. Now here's why the disc defeats us. There is simply too little of it. 241 signs is a tiny sample, far too small to crack a code. And no second disc has ever been found anywhere to compare it with. No bilingual text pairs it with any language we already know. Champollion cracked Egypt with a stone written 3 different ways, but the disc gives us no such gift, only its own silence. We do not even know which direction the spiral should be read, rim to center or center to rim. The experts still fight. Every clue we would need burned, eroded, or vanished long ago. Now run your thumb along one pressed sign and feel the ridge. That ridge was cut into a stamp by a Bronze Age hand. Guess how many distinct signs there are before I tell you. Most people guess far too many. The real answer is 45. But here's the part that unsettles me the most. You do not fire a shopping list into permanent, unbreakable stone. Baking it meant someone was desperate for this message to last. Whatever it says, its maker meant it to outlive their whole world. And it did, because that world is gone and the disc remains. Now here's a twist most people never hear about. In 2008, one expert stood up and called the whole thing a fake. He argued the clean, sharp edges looked suspiciously modern. He demanded a single lab test to finally settle the fight. But Greece refused, unwilling to risk its priceless national treasure. Most scholars still hold that the disc is genuinely ancient. Its strange signs match no known forger's playbook at all, and the clay is local Cretan earth, tested and confirmed. Now step back, because the true mystery finally sharpens. A mature script needs generations of writers to evolve, yet the signs arrive fully formed with no ancestors. Egyptian hieroglyphs left 3,000 years of drafts and descendants. The signs left none. Cuneiform evolved in public for 3,000 years, so one Cretan workshop wrote a language nobody else wrote. And then, in a single generation, the language vanished. Now imagine a whole library reduced to one surviving page. An entire tongue was spoken, written once, and then lost forever. You are reading the only sentence left of a vanished language. Everything else its people wrote was erased forever, but the signs still hide a second puzzle inside the first. A few look Egyptian, a few look Anatolian, none look native. And none of them match Minoan Linear A cleanly either. Linear A itself is also still undeciphered to this day. So Crete hands us two unreadable scripts, not just one. Now here's a stranger thought. It may not be Minoan at all. Some argue a visitor carried it in from across the dark sea. That would make it a stranger's letter, sealed and never opened. Phaistos was a sprawling palace above a wide green plain. Its ships reached Egypt, Anatolia, and the whole Bronze Age world. They built plumbing, courtyards, and vast halls of storage jars. Their bright frescoes still show dolphins, lilies, and leaping bulls. And yet they left us almost nothing that we can actually read. A brilliant people went quiet and took their words with them. Only 15 centimeters wide, it fits in the palm of one hand. The fire of 1700 BC is the only reason we hold it today. Egypt had hieroglyphs, Crete had this, and only this survived. 2 flat faces, 61 word groups, and not one voice to read them. Now watch what modern science does against this little disc. Statistics, cryptography, and machine learning have all failed on it. The sample is simply too small for any algorithm to lock onto. You cannot brute force a code with only 61 words. The math that beat wartime ciphers cannot beat this baked clay. But here's the human cost we rarely talk about. By 1950, one scholar had burned 20 years on it and gained nothing. By 2011, computers still could not read a single one of 61 words. The dark, fired earth holds 241 marks and 0 answers. You could stare at it for 40 years and learn nothing. Whole careers, 40 years long, were spent and wasted here. Reputations were ruined by decipherments that collapsed overnight. The disc has outlasted every single person who ever chased it, and it will likely outlast us too, still refusing to speak. Now here's a challenge you can actually try right now. Pick any of the 45 signs and follow it around the spiral. See if you can feel a pattern nobody has ever proven. If this mystery grips you, the like button truly helps it spread. Now here's the deepest wonder, and it is not the message. Someone standardized 45 signs no other culture ever used. A private, complete, repeatable script, built and then abandoned. It is a whole language compressed into one artifact. And it went dark on one island and stayed dark for 3,000 years. We lost the script, the language, and the reason all at once. All that is left is a coaster-sized round of baked earth, 15 centimeters wide and heavier with mystery than any gold. Kings hoarded gold, but this potter hoarded a single, dangerous idea. No treasure in that whole Cretan palace matters more than this. The full story of Crete's lost scripts runs deeper than one video. The books that map these mysteries are linked below free with the trial. Send this to the one friend who thinks printing began with Gutenberg. Now remember exactly what this small object is. The only text of a language no one ever deciphered. 241 marks, 45 signs, 61 words, and 0 living readers. Baked hard by a hand desperate to be remembered, then forgotten. Found in a burned palace in a basement by pure accident. Undeciphered for over 100 years and still counting today. Fired to survive, yet saying nothing that we can ever hear. Subscribe if you want one impossible ancient object opened every single day. Now you decide what I decode next. Vote A for Puma Pumku's impossible drill holes bored through solid stone. Vote B for the Baghdad battery that stored charge 2,000 years ago. The comments choose, and I build the winner tomorrow. Until then, the 45 signs stay sealed in silence. 241 marks nobody alive can read in signs found nowhere else. A fingertip rests on the answer, and still no one can read it.